The German shepherd's ears snapped forward so fast Officer Marcus Webb nearly dropped his coffee. Rex had been a police K-9 for 6 years. Marcus knew every twitch, every stance, every micro-expression in that intelligent face. This wasn't the alert for drugs or explosives. This wasn't even the focused intensity Rex showed before tracking a suspect through the woods. This was something else entirely. The dog's entire body had gone rigid, muscles trembling beneath his glossy coat. His dark eyes fixed on something across the grocery store parking lot, and a low whine escaped his throat, a sound Marcus had never heard from him before. Not in training, not in the field, not ever. "What is it, boy?" Marcus set down his cup, hand instinctively moving toward his radio. Rex didn't acknowledge the question. His gaze remained locked on a blue minivan parked 3 rows away. The afternoon sun beat down on the asphalt, heat waves shimmering up from the pavement. Families loaded groceries into their cars. A mother pushed a shopping cart past them, her toddler singing something off-key from the child's seat. Everything looked completely normal. But Rex knew something Marcus didn't. The dog took a step forward, then another, pulling against his leash with surprising force. Marcus had seen Rex track armed suspects with less urgency. The whine in the dog's throat grew louder, more insistent, almost desperate. His tail stood straight out, not wagging, not lowered, frozen in that position that meant, pay attention, something is wrong, something is very wrong. Marcus scanned the parking lot again. The blue minivan sat silent, windows tinted dark enough that he couldn't see inside. Virginia license plates. A stick-figure family decal on the back window showing 2 parents, 3 kids, and a dog. A soccer ball bumper sticker. Nothing suspicious. Nothing out of place. Yet Rex was practically vibrating with tension. "Easy, Rex. Easy." Marcus moved his hand in the calming gesture they'd practiced 1,000 times. The dog ignored him completely. Then Marcus saw it. A flicker of movement in the minivan's rear passenger window. The tint was dark, but something pale had pressed against the glass for just a second. A hand? He stepped closer, squinting against the sun's glare. Rex barked once, sharp and commanding. It was his alert bark, the one that meant target found, target acquired, officer respond immediately. But there was no suspect here. No criminal activity. Just a parked car in a suburban grocery store lot on a Wednesday afternoon. Marcus felt his heart rate pick up anyway. Something in his gut twisted. That instinct every cop learned to trust or ignore at their own peril. He'd ignored it once, 3 years ago, during what looked like a routine traffic stop. The driver had seemed nervous but cooperative, apologetic about the broken taillight. Marcus had been ready to send him on his way with a warning. Rex had alerted differently that day, too. Something subtle in his posture that Marcus almost missed. They'd found 12 kilos of fentanyl hidden in the door panels and a loaded Glock under the driver's seat. The nervous but cooperative driver had been wanted in connection with 2 murders in Baltimore. Marcus never ignored Rex's alerts after that. He keyed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I'm at the Kroger on Riverside. Need you to run a plate for me. Virginia tags, David Charlie Frank 7239, Blue Honda Odyssey." "Copy that, Unit 7. Stand by." Rex barked again, louder this time. The fur along his spine stood up in a ridge. He lunged forward so hard Marcus had to brace himself to keep from being pulled off balance. The dog weighed 90 pounds of pure muscle, and right now every ounce of that muscle screamed urgency. A woman loading groceries 2 cars over looked up, startled by the commotion. She grabbed her young son's hand and quickly steered him away, throwing nervous glances back at the police dog who seemed to be losing control. Marcus wasn't sure she was wrong. "Rex, heel!" His command came out sharp, authoritative. For the first time in their partnership, Rex didn't obey. Instead, the dog turned his head and looked directly at Marcus with an expression that seemed almost pleading. His dark eyes held an intelligence that sometimes made Marcus forget he was working with an animal and not a highly trained partner who just happened to walk on 4 legs. "Trust me," those eyes seemed to say. "Something is wrong. Someone needs help." Unit 7, that vehicle comes back registered to a Thomas and Jennifer Hartley, address in Richmond. No wants, no warrants. Vehicle registration is current. Marcus acknowledged the transmission, but his attention stayed fixed on Rex. The dog had turned back to the minivan, every line of his body taut with purpose. His nose worked the air, processing scents Marcus couldn't begin to detect. Dogs could smell fear, Marcus knew. They could smell stress hormones, adrenaline, even certain medical conditions. What was Rex smelling right now? The parking lot felt different suddenly, though nothing visible had changed. The mundane afternoon shopping scene continued around them, cartwheels rattling, car doors slamming, someone's radio playing country music too loud. But underneath it all, Marcus felt the weight of something wrong pressing down on the moment. He moved closer to the minivan, Rex straining at the leash beside him. That's when he saw it clearly this time. A small face pressed against the rear passenger window, partially obscured by the dark tint. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Her palm was flat against the glass, and her fingers. Marcus's blood ran cold. Her fingers were positioned in a specific pattern. Thumb tucked into her palm, 4 fingers extended. Then, as he watched, she curled her fingers down over the tucked thumb, making a fist. It was a hand signal that had gone viral on social media 2 years ago. A silent way to signal for help, created specifically for people, especially women and children, who were in danger but couldn't speak freely. The signal for help had been spread through TikTok videos, news segments, and safety campaigns. Thumb in, fingers over. "I need help. I'm in danger." Marcus had seen the training videos during a departmental briefing about human trafficking awareness. He'd watched real footage of a teenager using that exact signal from a car window, leading to her rescue from an abduction situation. But this was just a family minivan in a grocery store parking lot, registered to a couple in Richmond. Soccer ball sticker, stick figure family. The little girl's face disappeared from the window. Rex lunged forward again, and this time his bark erupted in a series of sharp, frantic sounds that echoed across the parking lot. People were definitely staring now. A store employee stepped outside, phone already in hand, probably calling the manager to complain about the out-of-control police dog disturbing customers. Marcus's training kicked into overdrive. He couldn't just approach the vehicle based on a hand signal glimpsed through a tinted window. But he couldn't walk away either. Not with Rex reacting like this. Not with that image of the little girl's hand burned into his mind. What if I'm wrong? The thought tried to take root. What if it's just a kid playing a game, making gestures at strangers? What if I traumatize an innocent family, make national news as the cop who terrorized suburban parents because their daughter waved weird? Then Rex made a sound Marcus would remember for the rest of his life. The dog howled, not a bark, not a whine, a full-throated, mournful howl that raised the hair on Marcus's arms and made everyone within 50 yards stop what they were doing and turn to look. It was a sound of anguish, of desperate urgency, of a creature who had detected something so fundamentally wrong that his highly trained discipline shattered under the weight of it. K-9s didn't howl on duty. They didn't break protocol. They didn't lose their composure. Unless something was very, very wrong. Marcus made his decision. Dispatch Unit 7. I need backup at my location. Possible welfare check on occupants of that Honda Odyssey. And he hesitated for just a heartbeat. Request additional units. Something's not right here. Copy, Unit 7. Units are en route. ETA 4 minutes. 4 minutes felt like 4 hours. Marcus approached the minivan slowly, professionally, hand resting on his service weapon out of habit more than expectation. Rex stayed close to his left side now, no longer pulling, but his body remained rigid with tension. The dog's eyes never left the vehicle. As they got closer, Marcus could see movement inside more clearly. The driver's seat was empty, so was the passenger seat, but in the back, shadows shifted. He thought he could see at least 2 figures, maybe 3. He raised his voice, projecting the calm authority he'd practiced thousands of times. "This is Officer Webb with the Fairfax County Police. Is everything all right in there?" No response. The minivan's engine wasn't running. The afternoon heat must be building inside that closed vehicle, especially with the sun beating down on the dark-colored exterior. Why would anyone sit in a hot car in a parking lot with the engine off? Marcus moved to the driver's side window, positioning himself at an angle that gave him maximum visibility while keeping him out of the direct line of fire if... He stopped that thought. This was a grocery store parking lot. A family vehicle. He was doing a welfare check, not approaching an active threat. But his hand stayed on his weapon anyway. "Police officer, I need someone to roll down a window, please." Nothing. Just the muffled sounds of the parking lot around them and Rex's heavy breathing beside him. Then, finally, the rear passenger window cracked open. Just an inch. Just enough for a voice to slip through. A man's voice. Calm. Almost too calm. "Can I help you, officer?" "Just checking on everyone's welfare, sir. Hot day to be sitting in a vehicle. Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Just waiting for my wife. She ran inside for one more thing." The explanation sounded reasonable, normal, the kind of thing Marcus heard 100 times in his career. But Rex's growl started low in his chest, a rumbling warning that vibrated through the leash and up Marcus's arm. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle." "Is there a problem, officer?" Still calm. Still reasonable. But something in that voice made Marcus's spine straighten. "We're just waiting here. Not breaking any laws." "No, sir, no problem at all. Just procedure." "If you could step..." The window rolled back up. Marcus's hand moved to his radio immediately. "Dispatch Unit 7, be advised." The minivan's engine roared to life. Everything happened in seconds, but Marcus's mind processed it in slow-motion clarity. The reverse lights flashed white. The vehicle lurched backward. Rex's bark exploded beside him. Marcus jumped to the side, pulling Rex with him, barely avoiding the van's rear bumper as it swung toward them. Tires squealed on asphalt. The smell of burned rubber filled the air. The blue Honda Odyssey shot backward out of its parking space, nearly clipping a shopping cart corral, then jerked to a stop. The transmission clunked into drive. For one frozen moment, Marcus could see through the windshield clearly. A man in the driver's seat, baseball cap pulled low. And in the very back row of seats, pressed against the rear window where the stick-figure family decal smiled cheerfully at the world, a little girl with blonde hair and wide, terrified eyes. Her hand came up one more time against the glass. Thumb in, fingers over. Then the minivan accelerated hard, engine screaming, and raced toward the parking lot exit. Rex exploded into motion before Marcus's brain even registered the command to move. The German Shepherd launched himself toward their patrol car with a speed and purpose that nearly yanked Marcus's arm from its socket. The dog knew what came next. He'd done it hundreds of times in training, dozens of times in the field. That minivan was fleeing. That minivan contained someone who needed help, and Rex was going to bring them back. Marcus's hands shook as he fumbled with the cruiser's door handle, adrenaline flooding his system. He'd been a cop for 9 years. He'd pursued stolen vehicles, served high-risk warrants, responded to domestic disputes that turned violent. But something about this moment felt different. The image of that little girl's face, those terrified eyes, that desperate hand signal, it had burned itself into his consciousness like a brand. All units, This is Unit 7 in pursuit of a blue Honda Odyssey. Last seen heading eastbound on Riverside Drive from the Kroger parking lot. Plate David Charlie Frank 7239. Possible child in danger. Repeat. Possible child in danger. Rex was already in his compartment in the back of the cruiser, body tense and ready, dark eyes fixed forward through the partition. The dog's intelligence had always amazed Marcus, but never more than in moments like this. Rex understood. Somehow, in whatever way dogs processed the world, he understood that they were racing against time to help someone who couldn't help themselves. The patrol car's engine roared to life. Lights and sirens activated automatically. Marcus slammed the transmission into drive and punched the accelerator, tires squealing as they lurched out of the parking space. His radio crackled constantly now as dispatch coordinated the response. Other units calling in their positions, supervisors asking for situation updates, the whole department machinery grinding into gear because a K9 had alerted and a little girl had made a hand signal and a vehicle had fled from a simple welfare check. What if I'm wrong? The doubt tried to creep in again as Marcus navigated through the parking lot traffic at dangerous speeds. What if this is all a massive misunderstanding? What if that's her father, and she was just playing, and now I've started an interstate pursuit that'll cost me my career? But he'd seen her face, those eyes, and Rex had known. Somehow, impossibly, Rex had known before any of them. The Honda Odyssey was already a block ahead, weaving through traffic with reckless abandon. It blew through a red light at the first intersection, forcing cars to slam on their brakes, horns blaring. Marcus followed, lights flashing, siren wailing its urgent warning. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles had gone white. Unit 7, we have 3 units converging on your location. Air support is spinning up but won't be overhead for another 8 minutes. 8 minutes. The minivan could be anywhere in 8 minutes. Could cross into another county. Could reach a highway. Could disappear into one of the 1,000 suburban neighborhoods that sprawled across northern Virginia like a maze. The Honda took a hard right onto a residential street, going at least 50 in a 25 zone. Marcus followed, his cruiser's superior handling and power keeping them in contact. Rex barked from the back, a steady rhythm of sound that matched the pulse pounding in Marcus's ears. Front lawns and houses blurred past. A kid on a bike yanked himself onto the sidewalk just in time. An elderly man watering his garden stared, mouth open, garden hose forgotten in his hand as the 2 vehicles screamed past. The minivan was fast, but the driver was panicking, making mistakes. He took a turn too wide, jumped the curb, clipped a mailbox that exploded in a shower of wood splinters. The impact didn't slow him down. Marcus's radio crackled again. Unit 7, be advised. We've got additional information on that vehicle registration. The Hartleys reported their daughter Emily missing 4 days ago. 7 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes. Amber Alert was issued but later canceled when there were no leads. Family thought she might have been taken by her non-custodial biological father. 4 days. That little girl had been missing for 4 days. And somehow, impossibly, Rex had detected it. Had sensed something. Fear pheromones, stress chemicals. Something in the complex, invisible world of scent that humans couldn't begin to comprehend that told him a child was in danger. The doubt evaporated. Marcus pressed down harder on the accelerator. The Honda suddenly swerved left into a narrow alley between 2 commercial buildings. It was a desperate move, a panicked attempt to lose the pursuit. The alley barely accommodated the minivan's width. Marcus followed without hesitation, his cruiser's mirrors nearly scraping the brick walls on either side. Unit 7, we're attempting to set up a perimeter on the east side of your location. Stay with him. Don't let him reach Route 50. Easier said than done. The alley opened onto another residential street, and the Honda immediately turned right, heading toward the commercial district. Traffic was heavier here. The driver of the minivan was taking insane risks now, passing on the right, cutting through a gas station parking lot to skip a red light, forcing pedestrians to scramble out of the way. Someone was going to get killed if this kept up. Marcus's training warred with his instincts. Pursuit protocols existed for a reason. Sometimes you had to break off a chase when the danger to the public outweighed the need to apprehend the suspect. But this wasn't just any suspect. This was someone who had kidnapped a 7-year-old girl. Someone who had held her for 4 days. Someone who was now using her as leverage, as a hostage, as insurance against exactly what was happening right now. If they let him go, what would he do to Emily? Rex's barking increased in intensity. The dog could sense Marcus's tension, could feel the urgency of the situation through some invisible bond they'd developed over 6 years of partnership. In the rearview mirror, Marcus could see Rex's eyes fixed forward, body pressed against the partition, every muscle coiled like a spring. "Stay with him, boy," Marcus muttered. "We're not losing her." The Honda took another turn, this time onto a larger road that fed into a shopping center. The mid-afternoon traffic was moderate, enough cars to make pursuit dangerous, not enough to actually slow the minivan down. The driver was weaving between vehicles now, using the Honda's smaller size to his advantage. Marcus followed, but his cruiser was larger, harder to maneuver through tight gaps. He had to drop back slightly, his heart hammering against his ribs as the distance increased. 20 yards. 30. 40. They were losing him. "Unit 3, I've got eyes on the target vehicle," a voice crackled over the radio. "I'm positioned on Jefferson Street, approaching the intersection with Maple, preparing to deploy stop sticks." Stop sticks. Tire deflation devices that would puncture the Honda's tires, slowly deflating them and forcing the vehicle to a controlled stop. It was a standard pursuit intervention technique. Safe, reliable, effective. It was also their best chance to end this before someone got hurt. "Copy that, Unit 3, dispatch responded. "Unit 7, be advised, stop sticks will be deployed at Jefferson and Maple in approximately 30 seconds. Marcus acknowledged the transmission. 30 seconds. In a pursuit, 30 seconds was an eternity. But the Honda was heading straight toward that intersection, seemingly unaware of the trap being laid ahead. Then the driver must have heard something on a police scanner, or maybe just sensed the danger because the minivan suddenly braked hard and swerved right into a shopping center parking lot. No, not a shopping center. Marcus's heart sank as he recognized the location. Riverside Elementary School. The end-of-day bell had rung 20 minutes ago. The parking lot was full of parents picking up their children. Kids everywhere, streaming out of the building, climbing into cars, playing on the playground equipment while their parents chatted. The Honda raced into the middle of it all. "Jesus," Marcus breathed. His foot hovered over the brake pedal. This was it. This was the moment where protocol demanded he break off pursuit. You didn't chase suspects into a school zone. You didn't risk the lives of dozens of children to apprehend one criminal. But Emily was in that vehicle. And if they lost the minivan here, in this chaos of similar-looking cars and confused parents and multiple exits, they might never find her again. Rex's barking reached a fever pitch. The dog sensed Marcus's hesitation, his paralysis. In the mirror, Marcus could see Rex pawing at the partition, desperate to act, to move, to do something. The Honda was slowing down, forced to navigate through the crowded parking lot at a safer speed. It was trying to blend in, to become just another parent vehicle picking up just another child. From a distance, with its soccer ball sticker and family decal, it looked like it belonged here. Marcus followed at a slower pace, lights still flashing but siren now off. His radio was chaos, dispatch issuing orders, supervisors demanding updates, other units calling out positions. But Marcus blocked it all out. His entire focus narrowed to that blue minivan weaving through the school parking lot. A school security officer ran toward the Honda, hand up in a stop gesture, probably thinking it was just an over-eager parent driving too fast. The minivan swerved around him without slowing. Then Marcus saw it. the vehicle was heading toward the back of the parking lot, toward an exit that led to a service road. It was going to escape, going to disappear into the suburban sprawl, going to take Emily with it. Unit 7, do not pursue into the school zone, a supervisor's voice barked over the radio. Break off now. We'll coordinate a ground search. A ground search could take hours, days. By then, Emily could be 3 states away, or worse. Marcus's hand moved to the door handle. He couldn't pursue in the cruiser, not through a parking lot full of elementary school children, but on foot. He slammed the vehicle into park and was out the door in one fluid motion, already sprinting before his brain caught up with his body. Behind him, he could hear Rex barking frantically, the sound muffled by the cruiser's metal walls. Marcus! Another officer's voice on the radio, using his first name now, breaking protocol. Stand down! You're not authorized! Marcus yanked open the rear compartment. Rex exploded out like a missile, all 90 pounds of German Shepherd hitting the ground at a full run. The dog knew his job. The dog understood the mission. Find Emily, protect Emily, bring Emily home. They ran together, officer and K9, partners in the truest sense of the word. Parents grabbed their children and pulled them close as the police dog streaked past. Someone screamed. A teacher shouted something Marcus didn't process. All he could see was the blue minivan, 30 yards ahead, 20 yards, pulling toward the back exit. All he could hear was Rex's powerful breathing beside him and the blood rushing in his own ears. The Honda reached the exit and accelerated hard, bouncing over a speed bump, heading for the service road. They were going to lose her. Then Rex did something that would later be analyzed in police training videos, discussed in K9 handler conferences, and replayed on news broadcasts across the country. The dog changed trajectory mid-sprint, veering away from the fleeing minivan and instead angling toward a compact car that was pulling out of a parking space directly in the Honda's path. Rex barked once, that sharp, commanding alert bark, startling the driver of the compact car so badly that she slammed on her brakes. Right in the middle of the exit lane. The Honda had no time to react. Brakes screamed. The minivan slewed sideways, trying desperately to avoid the collision. It jumped the curb instead, crashed through a low hedge, and slammed into a concrete light pole with a sickening crunch of metal and shattering glass. The engine died. Silence descended over the school parking lot like a heavy blanket. For 1 heartbeat, 2, nobody moved. Even the children stopped their noise, sensing that something serious had just happened. Then Rex was moving again, covering the final distance to the wrecked minivan in powerful strides. Marcus followed, service weapon drawn now, training taking over even as his hands shook. Driver, show me your hands! Show me your hands now! The driver's door opened. A man stumbled out, blood streaming from his nose, baseball cap knocked askew. Marcus recognized him from the DMV photos that had been in Emily's Amber Alert file 4 days ago. Brian Hartley, Emily's biological father. His parental rights had been terminated 2 years ago after a pattern of abuse. He'd violated a restraining order. There were warrants out for his arrest in 2 states. Down on the ground, now! Brian collapsed to his knees, hands up, dazed from the impact. Other officers were converging now, appearing from everywhere, surrounding the vehicle, securing the scene. But Marcus only had eyes for the back of the minivan. Rex was already there, standing at the rear passenger door, body tense, tail wagging for the first time since this whole thing started. The dog looked back at Marcus with an expression that seemed almost triumphant. I found her. I knew she was here. I knew she needed help. Marcus holstered his weapon with shaking hands and opened the door. Emily Hartley sat in the back row, seatbelt still fastened, blonde hair tangled, face streaked with tears. Her blue eyes went wide when she saw the police officer, then wider when she saw the German Shepherd beside him. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Marcus's throat had closed up completely, emotion threatening to overwhelm his professional composure. Around them, the controlled chaos of a police scene unfolded. Officers securing Brian Hartley, supervisors arriving, an ambulance being called, news helicopters appearing overhead. But in this moment, none of that mattered. "Emily?" Marcus's voice came out rough. "Emily Hartley? Your mom's been looking for you, sweetheart. You're safe now. You're going home." The little girl's face crumpled. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Then she looked down at Rex, who had moved closer, that intelligent face turned up toward her with an expression of gentle concern. "The doggy." Emily's voice was tiny, broken. "The doggy knew. I tried to tell people, but nobody saw me. Nobody looked. But the doggy knew." Rex whined softly, a sound nothing like the desperate urgency from before. This was a gentler sound, a comforting sound. The dog's tail wagged slowly as Emily reached out a small, trembling hand and placed it on top of his head. "Good doggy," she whispered. "Thank you, good doggy." Marcus had to turn away for a moment, blinking hard against the burning in his eyes. In 9 years as a police officer, he'd seen things that would give most people nightmares. He'd learned to compartmentalize, to maintain professional distance, to do the job without letting emotion cloud his judgment. But this broke through every wall he'd built. A paramedic appeared at his elbow, medical kit in hand, ready to check Emily for injuries. A female officer stepped forward to take over, someone with specific training in child trauma. The machinery of the police response rolled on, efficient and professional. Marcus backed away, giving them space to work, and found himself leaning against a nearby car with legs that suddenly didn't want to support him. Rex stayed close, pressed against his leg, the dog's warmth solid and real and grounding. "Hell of a thing," a voice said beside him. Marcus looked over. Lieutenant Castellano stood there, arms crossed, watching Emily being carefully helped from the minivan. The lieutenant had been a cop for 25 years. He'd seen it all. But even his weathered face showed signs of being affected by what had just happened. "Hell of a thing," Marcus agreed. "Your dog..." Castellano shook his head. How did he know? The vehicle was parked, no visible signs of distress, no sounds. How did he know there was a child in danger? Marcus looked down at Rex. The German shepherd looked back up at him with those dark, intelligent eyes. A mystery wrapped in fur and loyalty and 6 years of partnership. "I don't know," Marcus admitted, "but I'm glad he did. The supervisor wanted me to chew you out for continuing that pursuit into the school zone," Castellano said, "against direct orders." "Yes, sir. But I'm not going to do that." The lieutenant's voice softened slightly. "Because you saved that little girl's life. If you'd broken off pursuit, we'd still be searching. Brian Hartley had a fake ID, cash, and a map with a route plotted to Mexico in that van. He was running, and he wasn't planning to bring Emily back." The words settled over Marcus like a weight. 4 more hours, maybe 6, and Emily would have been across state lines, maybe across the border, lost in a system that might never have found her. All because Rex had alerted. All because a police dog had sensed something wrong in a parking lot on a Wednesday afternoon. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beep of monitoring equipment and the gentle sound of Emily's breathing as she slept. Marcus stood in the doorway, Rex at his side, watching as Emily's mother, Jennifer Hartley, sat beside her daughter's bed, holding the little girl's hand like she might never let go. Jennifer's face was blotchy from crying, eyes red-rimmed and swollen, but there was a peace in her expression now that hadn't been there in the 4 days her daughter had been missing. It had been 6 hours since the crash at Riverside Elementary. 6 hours of statements and reports and debriefings. 6 hours of news vans and reporters and the machinery of a story that was already going viral on every social media platform. The video was everywhere now. Security camera footage from the school showing a police officer and his K9 racing across the parking lot, showing the moment Rex's bark caused that driver to stop, showing the dramatic crash and the rescue that followed. "Officer Webb?" Marcus turned. A hospital administrator stood behind him, a slim woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a professional smile. "Dr. Martinez would like to speak with you if you have a moment. She's the pediatric psychologist who's been working with Emily." Marcus glanced at Rex. The dog had been unusually quiet since they'd arrived at the hospital, as if he understood they were in a place that required calm behavior. They followed the administrator down the corridor to a small consultation room. Dr. Martinez was younger than Marcus expected, maybe early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and a gentle demeanor that probably put traumatized children at ease. She stood when they entered, her eyes immediately going to Rex. "This is him? This is the dog?" "This is Rex." Dr. Martinez knelt down slowly, maintaining eye contact with the German shepherd. Rex's tail wagged slightly. The doctor held out her hand, palm up, letting Rex sniff it before gently scratching behind his ears. "Remarkable," she murmured. "Absolutely remarkable." She stood and gestured for Marcus to sit. Rex settled at his feet, head resting on his paws but eyes alert. "I wanted to talk to you about Emily," Dr. Martinez began. "About what happened during those 4 days she was missing." Marcus's jaw tightened. Did he hurt her? Physically? Some bruising on her wrists where she'd been restrained? Dehydration? Malnourishment? He fed her, but not enough. But nothing worse. We were very thorough in our examination. The relief was so intense, Marcus felt dizzy with it. Thank God. However, Dr. Martinez continued, her voice taking on a more serious tone, psychologically, she's been through significant trauma. Brian Hartley kept her in the back of that minivan for most of the 4 days, moving from location to location, parking in different lots and rest stops. He told her that her mother didn't want her anymore, that she'd asked him to take Emily away because she was too much trouble. Marcus's hands curled into fists. Jesus. Emily didn't believe him, fortunately. She's a smart girl, and she remembered what her mother had taught her about stranger danger, even though Brian is her biological father. She barely remembers him from when she was younger. She knew something was wrong. "The hand signal," Marcus said. "She was trying to get help." Dr. Martinez nodded. She saw that signal on a video her mother showed her a few months ago. Jennifer is very conscientious about safety education. Emily tried using the signal multiple times over those 4 days, pressing her hand against the window whenever other people were nearby. But the tinted windows made her hard to see, and when people did notice, they just thought she was waving or playing. The thought of Emily desperately trying to signal for help while dozens, maybe hundreds of people walked past without noticing made Marcus's chest ache. "Until Rex," Dr. Martinez said softly. "Until your dog somehow knew to look." "I still don't understand how he detected it," Marcus admitted. "We were parked 50 feet away. The windows were tinted. Emily wasn't making noise." Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. I've been researching canine sensory perception, particularly in working dogs. Did you know that dogs can smell cortisol, stress hormones that humans release when they're afraid or in danger?" I knew they could smell fear generally. It's more specific than that. Studies have shown that trained dogs can detect elevated cortisol levels in human sweat and breath from remarkable distances. Emily had been in a constant state of stress for 4 days. Her cortisol levels would have been extremely elevated. Add to that the pheromones associated with fear, the subtle changes in body chemistry that occur during prolonged captivity. You're saying Rex smelled her fear? I'm saying Rex detected a chemical signature that his training and experience told him indicated a human in distress. German Shepherds have approximately 225 million scent receptors, compared to our paltry 5 million. They experience the world through smell in ways we literally cannot comprehend. Your dog didn't just smell fear. He smelled a specific combination of stress markers that his training associated with danger. Marcus looked down at Rex. The dog gazed back up at him placidly, as if they were discussing something as mundane as the weather rather than his apparently superhuman, or super canine, ability to detect a child in danger from 50 feet away through tinted car windows. "But he's never alerted like that before," Marcus said. "I've worked with Rex for 6 years. We've been near stressed people, scared people, even other children in distress during domestic calls. He's never reacted the way he did today." Dr. Martinez smiled slightly. "Maybe the circumstances were never quite right before. Or maybe—" She paused, seeming to consider her words carefully. "Maybe Rex sensed something else, something beyond the chemical markers." "I'm not following." "There's research, preliminary, somewhat controversial, but fascinating, suggesting that dogs may be able to detect human intentions and emotions through a combination of sensory input we don't fully understand yet. Not ESP or anything supernatural, but rather an integration of hundreds of small signals, micro-expressions, body language, vocalizations, scent, even electromagnetic fields from brain activity. Some researchers believe dogs may be sensing what we would call intuition through purely physical means." Marcus frowned. "You're saying Rex somehow sensed that Emily needed help beyond just smelling her stress?" "I'm saying we don't know the full extent of what dogs can perceive, but I've treated child trauma cases for 8 years, and I've never seen anything like what your dog did today. He didn't just detect distress. He persisted. He alerted. He refused to be ignored or redirected. That's not just training, that's something deeper." A soft knock interrupted them. A nurse poked her head in. "Dr. Martinez, Mrs. Hartley is asking if Officer Webb and his dog could come see Emily. She's awake and—" The nurse smiled. "She really wants to see the hero doggy." Rex's ears perked up at the word doggy, tail beginning to wag. Dr. Martinez laughed softly. "I think that answers that question. Go ahead, officer. She's been asking about him since she came out of the examination." Marcus stood, Rex immediately rising with him. They followed the nurse back down the corridor to Emily's room. Jennifer Hartley looked up as they entered, and her face transformed with emotion. "Officer Webb," she breathed, "I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you so many times these past few hours, but every time I tried, I just—" Her voice broke. "You brought my baby back. You and your dog, you brought my baby back to me." "Ma'am." "Mom?" Emily's small voice interrupted. She was sitting up in the hospital bed now, wearing a clean gown. Her blonde hair brushed and neat, but her eyes were fixed on Rex with an intensity that reminded Marcus of how Rex had looked at the minivan. Recognition, connection, understanding. "Can the doggy come closer?" Marcus looked at Jennifer, who nodded immediately, tears streaming down her face. Marcus led Rex to the bedside. The dog moved carefully, as if sensing the fragility of the moment. When he reached the bed, Rex sat without being commanded, positioning himself so Emily could easily reach him. The little girl's hand came out slowly, trembling slightly as it had in the parking lot. She placed it on Rex's head, fingers tangling in the soft fur between his ears. Rex's tail wagged gently. "I saw you," Emily whispered, looking into the dog's dark eyes. "In the parking lot, when I did the signal. Everyone else was walking by, not looking, but you saw me. You knew I needed help." Rex made a soft sound, somewhere between a whine and a sigh. Emily's other hand joined the first, now cupping the dog's face, leaning forward until her forehead rested against his. "Thank you," she breathed. "Thank you for not walking away. Thank you for telling your person. Thank you for being such a good boy." Marcus watched, his professional composure finally cracking completely. Tears he'd been holding back for hours spilled free. He wasn't ashamed of them. Nobody in that room was. Jennifer Hartley was openly sobbing now, one hand over her mouth, the other reaching out to touch her daughter's shoulder. The connection between the little girl and the police dog seemed to fill the room with something Marcus couldn't name but could feel in his chest. Gratitude, relief, love, the profound weight of a life saved and a family restored. Rex remained perfectly still, letting Emily hold him, his eyes half closed in an expression that looked almost peaceful. After a long moment, Emily pulled back slightly, wiping at her eyes with one small hand. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, looking up at Marcus now. "Something about your dog?" "Of course, sweetheart. When I was in the van and it was dark and I was scared, I kept thinking about my mom and how she always told me that if I was ever in trouble, there would be someone who would help me. She said I just had to be brave and look for them." Emily's voice wavered but held. "I did the signal at lots of windows. Lots and lots of people walked by. But nobody saw. Or if they saw, they didn't understand." She looked back at Rex, fresh tears welling in her eyes. "But then I saw him. Your dog. He was so far away and the window was dark, and I thought he wouldn't see me either. But he stopped. He looked right at me. And his eyes—" Emily struggled to find the words. "His eyes were like my mom's eyes when she tucks me in at night. Like he was saying, 'I see you. I know you're scared. I'm going to help you.'" Marcus's throat closed up completely. He managed a nod but couldn't trust his voice to speak. "Dogs can't talk," Emily continued. "But I think they know things, important things. Like when somebody needs help. Like when somebody is alone and scared and needs someone to not walk away." She leaned forward again, pressing a kiss to the top of Rex's head. "You're the best dog in the whole world. The best dog ever." Rex's tail thumped against the floor. The hospital released Emily into her mother's care the following morning. Marcus and Rex were there for the discharge, along with what seemed like half the police department and a substantial crowd of reporters being held back by hospital security. The reunion between Emily and her maternal grandparents reduced everyone present to tears. Her grandmother couldn't stop touching her granddaughter's face, as if confirming she was real. Her grandfather kept saying, "Thank God," over and over like a prayer. When they were ready to leave, Jennifer Hartley approached Marcus one last time. She carried a small stuffed German Shepherd toy, the kind sold in hospital gift shops. "I know this is silly," she said, holding it up. "I know Rex is a real working police dog and not a toy. But Emily wanted him to have something. She picked it out herself this morning." Marcus felt his eyes burning again. How many times was he going to cry over this case? "Ma'am, that's very kind, but please." Jennifer's voice was firm despite her tears. "Let her give it to him. She needs this." Marcus looked down at Emily, who stood beside her mother holding the stuffed toy. The little girl approached Rex carefully, remembering the hospital rules about not making sudden movements around police dogs. "Rex," she said softly, "I got you a present. Because you saved me. Because you didn't walk away." She held out the stuffed German Shepherd. Rex sniffed it carefully, then, to Marcus's complete surprise, gently took it in his mouth, holding it carefully the way he'd been trained to carry evidence bags without damaging them. The crowd that had gathered gasped, then broke into applause. Phone cameras clicked and flashed. Someone was definitely crying, actually, several someones. Marcus didn't bother trying to hide his own tears anymore. Emily beamed. That bright, pure smile of a 7-year-old who'd been through hell and come out the other side. She threw her arms around Rex's neck one more time, burying her face in his fur. "I love you, hero dog," she whispered, quiet enough that only Marcus heard. "I'm going to remember you forever and ever." Rex made that soft sound again, the gentle whine that somehow conveyed more emotion than words ever could. He stayed perfectly still, letting the little girl hold him as long as she needed to. When Emily finally pulled away and took her mother's hand, Rex sat at attention. The stuffed dog still held carefully in his mouth. He watched as Emily and her family walked toward the exit, surrounded by relatives and officers, and the overwhelming relief of people who'd gotten their miracle. Just before they disappeared through the doors, Emily turned back one more time. She raised her hand, not in the distress signal this time, but in a simple wave. A goodbye. A thank you. A promise to remember. Rex's tail wagged slowly, still holding his gift. The story made national news. Police K9 saves missing girl with incredible instincts ran on every major outlet. The parking lot security footage went viral, racking up millions of views. Dog trainers analyzed it. Psychologists discussed it. Animal behaviorists debated the science behind what Rex had detected and how. Marcus and Rex were invited to news programs, given awards, honored by the department, praised by the mayor. The attention was overwhelming and more than a little uncomfortable for Marcus, who'd become a cop to help people, not to be famous. But he attended the ceremonies and gave the interviews because he understood their importance. The story had captured something people needed: hope, proof that there were still heroes, evidence that good could triumph over evil, even in a world that often seemed designed to prove otherwise. And if his presence at these events meant more people learned the hand signal for help, more parents taught their children about safety, more communities understood the value of Police K9 programs, then it was worth the discomfort. 3 weeks after the rescue, Marcus and Rex attended a special ceremony at Riverside Elementary. The school had invited Emily and her family, along with the media, to thank the officer and dog who'd saved one of their own. Children packed the gymnasium, sitting cross-legged on the floor in neat rows, eyes wide with excitement at seeing a real police dog. Emily sat in the front row with her mother, wearing a new dress and a genuine smile that Jennifer said was the first Marcus had seen since her daughter's return. The principal made a speech about courage and community. The police chief presented Marcus and Rex with a commendation. Then it was Marcus's turn to speak. He approached the podium with Rex at his side, looking out at hundreds of young faces staring back at him with expressions of awe and curiosity. Public speaking had never been his strength, but he'd prepared something for this moment.
"I want to tell you all something important," Marcus began, his voice amplified by the microphone. "Everyone keeps calling Rex a hero. They keep calling me a hero. But I want you to know the real hero." He gestured to Emily, who blushed bright red as all eyes turned toward her. Emily is the real hero of this story. She remembered her safety training. She knew the signal for help. And even when she was scared, even when nobody seemed to see her, she kept trying. She didn't give up. That's what real courage looks like. Not a police officer with a gun and a badge, but a 7-year-old girl who refused to stop hoping that someone would help. The gymnasium erupted in applause. Emily's face was scarlet now, but she was smiling, her mother's arm wrapped tight around her shoulders. "As for Rex," Marcus continued, reaching down to rest his hand on the dog's head, "he was just doing his job. Canines are trained to detect danger, to alert their handlers when something is wrong. What makes Rex special isn't that he could smell Emily's fear. Lots of dogs could have done that. What makes Rex special is that he wouldn't let it go. He refused to be ignored. He trusted what his instincts were telling him, even when his handler, me, was slow to understand." Rex looked up at him, tail wagging slightly, as if acknowledging the compliment.
So I guess what I want to say to all of you is this. Pay attention to the people and animals around you. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. If someone needs help, don't walk away. And if you ever find yourself in trouble, remember what Emily did. Be brave, use the signals you've been taught, and don't give up hope. Because somewhere out there, there's someone like Rex who won't stop looking until they find you. More applause, louder this time. The children were on their feet now, clapping and cheering. Emily was crying happy tears, her mother holding her close. After the ceremony, the school had organized a Meet Rex session where children could ask questions and, with proper supervision, pet the police dog. Rex handled it with the same patience and gentle demeanor he'd shown at the hospital, sitting calmly while dozens of small hands patted his head and small voices told him he was a good boy. Emily was the last in line. She'd waited patiently while every other child took their turn, and now she approached Rex one final time. "Hi," she said softly, kneeling down to be at his eye level. "Remember me?" Rex's tail wagged enthusiastically. Of course he remembered. Dogs never forgot. "I'm doing better," Emily told him, speaking in that serious, honest way children did when they knew they were saying something important. "I still have bad dreams sometimes, but my mom got me a puppy, a rescue puppy from the shelter. His name is Hero, and he sleeps in my room, and when I have bad dreams, he licks my face until I wake up and remember I'm safe." She reached out and took Rex's face in her small hands, the same way she had in the hospital. "I wanted to tell you that. I wanted you to know that because you helped me, I'm helping Hero. And maybe when Hero grows up, he'll help someone else. Maybe that's how it works. We all help each other, one person at a time, one dog at a time." Marcus, standing a few feet away, felt his eyes burn yet again. How many times had he cried during this case? He'd lost count. Emily leaned forward and pressed her forehead against Rex's, the same gesture of connection she'd made in the hospital room. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me, for not walking away, for being the best dog ever." Rex made that soft sound, that gentle whine that conveyed everything words couldn't. His eyes closed as Emily held him, and in that moment, Marcus understood something profound. This was why they did the job. Not for the medals or the news coverage or the recognition, but for this. For the chance to make a difference in one person's life, to be there when someone needed help, to be the one who didn't walk away. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you got to see the impact of that choice. You got to watch a terrified little girl transform back into a happy child. You got to witness a family restored. You got to know, with absolute certainty, that your presence in the world had mattered. Emily pulled back, wiping at her eyes, smiling through her tears. "Goodbye, Rex. I love you." She stood and walked back to her mother, who took her hand and led her toward the exit. But Emily turned back one more time, raising her hand in a wave. Rex watched her go, still sitting at attention, patient and calm and good. The best dog, the hero dog, the dog who'd seen a hand signal in a parking lot and refused to look away. Later that night, after the ceremony and the press interviews and the long drive back to the station, Marcus sat in the break room with Rex lying at his feet. The stuffed German shepherd Emily had given him, the one Rex had carried around for 3 weeks now, sat on the table between them. "Hell of a job, partner," Marcus said quietly, reaching down to scratch behind Rex's ears. "Hell of a job." Rex's tail thumped against the floor. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. Crime and chaos, emergencies and accidents, the constant drumbeat of human suffering that police officers spent their careers trying to mitigate. Tomorrow they'd be back out there, responding to calls, serving the public, doing the job they'd sworn to do. But tonight, just for tonight, Marcus let himself feel the full weight of what they'd accomplished. They'd saved a life. They'd brought a child home. They'd proven that sometimes, against all odds, the good guys win. And it had all started because a dog had looked across a parking lot and seen something nobody else could see. A little girl who needed help. A silent cry that only one creature in the world could hear. Marcus looked down at Rex, who gazed back up at him with those intelligent, knowing eyes. "How did you know, boy? How did you know she was there?" Rex just blinked slowly, keeping his secrets. Maybe Dr. Martinez was right about scent receptors and cortisol and pheromones. Maybe there was a perfectly scientific explanation for what had happened in that parking lot. Or maybe, just maybe, some things couldn't be fully explained by science alone. Maybe some connections existed beyond the realm of data and measurements. Maybe loyalty and love and the bond between partners who'd worked together for 6 years created something that transcended ordinary perception. Maybe dogs really did know things humans couldn't. Not through ESP or magic, but through a combination of senses and instinct and devotion that added up to something extraordinary. Marcus would probably never know for sure. But as he sat there in the quiet break room, his hand resting on Rex's head, the stuffed toy sitting between them like a promise, he decided he didn't need to know. Some miracles didn't require explanation. They just required gratitude. And maybe, if you were lucky enough to witness one, the wisdom to never forget it. Rex sighed contentedly, closing his eyes, content in the knowledge that his job was done, his girl was safe, and his human understood what truly mattered. Tomorrow there would be more work, more calls, more people who needed help. But tonight, a little girl was sleeping safely in her own bed, clutching a puppy named Hero, no longer afraid. And that, Marcus realized, was everything. That was why they did the job. That was why they never, ever walked away. Because somewhere out there, always, someone was making that silent signal. And someone needed to see it. Someone needed to answer. Someone needed to care enough to look.